Welcome to This Is My Architecture. I'm Benjamin from AWS. We're here in Tel Aviv, Israel. Today I'm joined by Tal from Cloudinary. Hi, Tal.
Hi, Benjamin.
Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Tal, tell us a little bit about what Cloudinary is. What do you guys do?
So Cloudinary is an end-to-end media management solution that supports companies in delivering their media assets, whether this is images, videos, or other assets. And we have a rich set of APIs to support everything from upload, management, manipulation, and delivery of these assets.
Okay, so you're delivering assets as a platform on behalf of your customers, correct? So I think today we're talking really about the core of your business, this delivery infrastructure. Yep. Talk to us a little bit about what your tech stack looks like. Where do we begin?
So we have our customer's customer over here, right, accessing these URLs with the assets that they want to hit. First stop is the CDN, where everything gets cached locally. But if the asset is not there in the cache, the request gets forwarded to our primary region, where it hits ELB, and from there to the cluster of EC2 servers that serve the request. The first thing these EC2 instances do is to make sure that, to check whether the resource already exists in S3. S3 serves as a cache from that respect. And if the resource is already there in S3, it's simply returned. If not, it gets generated, saved in S3, metadata gets saved in Aurora, and then the request gets, the asset gets returned all the way back to the customer.
Okay, so the first question that comes to my mind is, why isn't this the type of architecture that just has CDN and objects in S3?
What we allow is to manipulate assets on the fly. So if you have an image uploaded to Cloudinary, the original gets saved on S3. And from then on, you can basically request any manipulation on that image, on that video, on the fly. We'll grab the image, manipulate it as needed, resize, effects, whatever you need, and return the resource. So we need to be able to compute the derivative on the fly. That's why we have the EC2 there.
Understood. So this is really where your added value is. This is where you apply the business logic to whether or not you have an asset or you don't. So I see that you have two primary, and you have a primary and a secondary region operating in two. What is the motivation behind that?
So this is about both about high availability, making sure that if something goes wrong in the primary region, we have the secondary region that we can operate from, and from durability perspective. This is critical data. We never want it lost. So when any original gets stored in S3 here, it also gets stored on S3 here. And of course, the RDS gets replicated to the RDS in the secondary region. So if need be, all the data that we have to have for serving our assets is there in the secondary region.
Understood. So are you using cross-region replication to replicate your assets on S3?
So for S3, we do not use cross-region replication. We have our own mechanism where we save the assets in both regions. This is because the latency here is important. We have to make sure that once an asset gets saved in the primary S3, it will immediately get there on the secondary S3. You cannot afford arbitrary delays on the replication.
Oh, so essentially you can't afford to wait for that acknowledgement, and S3 cross-region replication is asynchronous. Exactly. And so you just want to know, I copied it to both, I have it in both regions, and now I'm saved.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
On the RDS front, we do use the RDS cross-region replication, which saves us a lot of trouble.
Understood. So I noticed that this here is notated in a different way. What does that represent?
Yeah. So we talked about durability. So we talked about the inherent durability of S3 is great. One aspect that we need to take into account is these resources are critical. Even in case of an attack or a rogue employee or what have you, we don't want ever to lose these resources. So this is actually a separate AWS account with separate keys, separate everything. This means that even if the main account gets compromised, there is no way to tamper or fully delete the data from this account, and the customer data is safe. Even the backups for this RDS is actually stored in this separate account, so we know that all the data, all the critical data is there.
Oh, interesting. And so effectively you have this separation where everything which is critical to your business is also being stored in a completely separate AWS account, and that has a separate auth mechanism into it.
Exactly.
And so it's never shared. That makes a lot of sense. I want to ask you about how do you fail over here? Do you always fail from one region to the other as an all or nothing thing?
No, it's actually very modular. If, for example, we have capacity issues there, where we can make sure that the CDN starts directing traffic to both ELBs and both EC2 clusters, and then they can both work against the primary S3. If need be, we can migrate, we can fail over to the secondary region only in storage and keep the compute on the primary region. This is very modular as needed.
Oh, understood. So you could essentially just fail over for the storage part, or you could just fail over for everything.
Yep.
When you're replicating things between these two S3 buckets, are you replicating everything?
No, we have tens of billions of objects. We want to make sure that we replicate what is critical. So, of course, originals are critical. They will always get replicated. But for these generated resources, anything that can be generated quickly, it's not worth replicating. Only the more expensive, for example, videos, will get replicated to the secondary S3.
Okay, so you're making sort of an intelligent decision about whether or not it's economical to replicate this, or it's more economical to regenerate this if I needed to in an event of a failover.
Exactly.
So that's a very interesting concept. You mentioned tens of billions of objects. What are we talking about in terms of storage here?
These are petabytes of storage in S3. Most of them are concentrated on the primary, but as I said, the more expensive ones in originals are on the secondaries.
So percentage-wise, how much are you saving by not replicating everything?
I would say that about 20% of what is there on the primary region is also there on the secondary region.
Oh, interesting. So it's very cost-effective
Yes.
to operate in this way. If you did need to fail over from one region to another, how much time does that take you?
So failover is quick, talk about minutes. Of course, the cache in this case will be empty. So when we fail over, this cluster is much bigger than the cluster that we need in regular operations.
It'll be working harder in order to replenish that cache that here just existed.
Exactly, but all the really expensive stuff will be there. It doesn't need to get regenerated. So we control the amount of CPU that's needed in case of a failover. And the failback is longer. Of course, we're fully operational during the failback, but everything that gets stored here needs to get correctly synchronized back to the primary region to make sure that everything both is there in the primary region and we don't get inconsistencies between the regions.
So it's a consistency play to make sure that you fail back safely.
Exactly.
So this all sounds wonderful. Have you guys tested this?
Yeah, so we have tested both the CPU level failovers and some of the major flows in S3 failovers.
So you're well prepared for an actual event. That's great. Tal, thank you. This is really interesting. I really love how you're being smart about what it is that you're replicating and being efficient about that. It's a really interesting take on disaster recovery. Thank you very much for walking us through this, and thank you for watching This Is My Architecture.